Hey everyone, and welcome to Read This Now, the weekly webcast where Brad Gustafson and I share two books that we love and we think you should read. When, Brad?
Right now, people.
Right now.
Signature move, Jen. Ever since that day, I think you did the knock. I slid the door open. It's always right here. There we go.
I love it. I love it. It's become our trademark. Our 3.5 viewers have come to expect such high quality programming for sure.
That's right. That's right.
So how you doing, my friend? You had a good week?
Oh, it's been amazing. So good. Yes.
And I'm assuming that reading has been part of that.
It's been, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous, Jen.
Why?
Well, things sometimes you get nervous at things. I'll share in a
True.
second why I'm nervous. I'm reading the second book in the Dune series. I think I book talked Dune last week or
yes.
so.
Or
and
yeah.
Yeah, just loving that. So
isn't
yeah.
it wonderful when you find a series that you just fall in love with? This time of year I love wrapping gifts. That's one of my very favorite like holiday traditions, and I always listen to an audiobook during that time. And for many years it seemed like there was a new Philip Pullman book out every year. And of course, Philip Pullman wrote the Golden Compass and the His Dark Materials trilogy. And then there's more books that have been coming out in that same universe. But the last 2 years in a row, I'm waiting for the third book patiently. So I'm sure Philip Pullman is one of our 3.5 viewers. And so this is for you, Philip. I need you to step on it. Like, let's get this sucker out.
Jen's got presents to wrap. Where's the book? Where's the audio book, Philip? I saw some of your pictures on Instagram of your presents you wrapped, and I was gonna ask you, like, do people actually open these? Because they are beautiful. It seems like the gift itself is just staring at the presentation.
Well, my mother-in-law, who is no longer alive, she's no longer with us. She really taught me the art of gift wrapping. She made the gift wrapping an event. She would often say, the wrapping's going to be better than the present. Don't get real excited. Like, she would joke about that. But she kind of felt like taking the time to do something special in the wrapping was another way to show your love for someone. And I have that always just spoke to me. And so I try to keep on with her tradition, even though I'm pale in comparison to her skills. However good you might think my gift wrapping is, she was absolutely the queen. So
wow, that's hard to believe, but that's cool.
Well, tell me about what you've been reading, my friend.
All right, so this is why I was a little bit nervous, because I am excited. I'm going to share a book. I don't do this often. It's a professional development title. Behind the numbers, I think maybe you and I have shared 4 this year, maybe 3. So here's one, but it's one I know the author pretty well. It's myself, Jen.
This is a first, Brad. Gustus said, if you're going to be sharing your own book, that is a first.
I am, because I've been reading this book a lot lately, and now it's actually a real physical book that was just released this week, and it's called The 6 Literacy Levers, and it was written to help educators create a community of readers in their classroom, in their school, in their districts, in their systems. And it is, as you and I, Jen and I, have talked, offline, and you're always so inspirational and helpful. This has been a labor of love, and so many people have contributed, not just ideas and feedback, but just like, what they say, we try the best we can to stand on the shoulder of giants. This is just an effort to try to help readers, but it's built on so much learning that I've done from friends and respected colleagues near and far. So what does the book do? What are we hoping to accomplish here? It has 6, as the title implies. There are 6 levers that I dive into, and each of the levers is introduced through like a leadership fable, I guess would be the best way to describe it. Kind of a short, easy to read or sticky story. And for example, I'll just share one of the levers to give you an idea. One of the levers, chapter 5, is the catapult. That's the memorable lever, and it stands for relationships and connection. And then it kind of delves into like a shared definition to support team or school-wide conversations about the catapult and building a reading community through relationships and connection. But then there are personal stories and research and activities and school implementation challenges that all tie to it. And it's just something where now that it's actually in the world, I can look at it with a different lens, through the lens of like appreciation and gratitude and reflection. And I'm just so pleased with how it turned out. And the early feedback, this is why, Jen, you asked me pre-show, we were talking, you're like, how's the book going? And I was like, I didn't really say much. It's because I was ready. I was like amping up to share now, but it's gone well. A friend reached out in Oklahoma today, and she had the chance to share with some educators there, and just shared how, you know, what the book has meant to her and how it's helping them. And you know how it is. You want to help people, and you want to make a difference, and you want to do right by readers. And it's just cool to see little moments where that's happening. So I humbly submit this as something perhaps you would read right now, or at least be aware of, in case you know someone who not only wants to teach kids how to read, or cheer with their favorite puppy, who evidently loves the book too now. But
my
also,
dog.
I love your dogs. It's like our own fan club, right? But not just how to read, but the motivation to want to read. And that's a big part of, I think, creating a community of readers. So thank you for letting me share this in person and announce it. This is like the big reveal here, Jen.
I love it. Well, my dog Stevie is not the only person in this household that's excited about this book, I should say, even though she is far more vocal at inappropriate moments than I am. But what I do want to say is that Brad and I were talking before the show, and I believe my finished copy is arriving today. But I got to read an early draft of the book, which makes me really excited about seeing the final finished product and how everything sort of came out in the wash. But what I'll say from that early draft is that there was two things I think that I loved about the book, is that I love the levers as a metaphor. Because I do think that's something that helps make the concepts really sticky for people, especially because, you know, you and I do a lot of professional development for educators, and my wheels start turning when I see things like that. When I was reading about the levers and ways that I could help educators think about those levers in their own school culture, in their own classroom or library practice, and how which levers are strongest for them, which ones are ones that they need some more support or maybe some help in building, etc. And I think those metaphors are really, really sticky. So I'm really excited about those. But the other piece of it is as your friend, you know, as somebody who's known you for a long time, the two of us have grown together as readers and as people who are literacy champions and who think a lot about how schools can help be places that really allow readers to flourish. You know, I just have seen in this book a piece of you that is not only seems deeply, deeply personal, but also just feels so incredibly tight and strong, in the sense that I can see like all of your expertise and learning just spread out on the pages there. And I'm so excited for school administrators, for classroom teachers, for school librarians, for guidance counselors, for everyone in a building who is devoted to helping kids become readers, to be able to get their hands on this book, because I know it will support them in that journey. So good on you. I'm excited to hold it myself.
I'm excited for you to read it too. Thank you so much.
Yay. Well, thank you, Brad. That was brave. That was a brave thing.
I know it was. That's why I was nervous. It's just, you know, it's internal excitement, and
Yes.
but it's also like a vulnerable type excitement too, because you and I often talk about this. Once a book is released, then readers get to make their own meaning, and that's exciting and hopefully helpful, but also it's a little bit scary. So
it is. And you know, you and I have chatted about this before, and I'm guessing that a lot of authors feel this way, but you try to put something out into the world that you can be proud of, even if no one else loves it the way you do,
yes.
you know. But ultimately, your work, it never reaches its full potential if there aren't people who are able to take what you've done and put it into practice. So
Yep.
hearing from those folks and getting it out there, taking that risk, and being brave enough to say, hey, I did this thing and I'm really proud of it. That's all part of the journey. So congratulations. I'm excited for you, and I'm really excited for people who help readers along their journey.
Thanks, Jen. One last little tidbit that I'm kind of along those lines that I'm most proud of is it was like a puzzle, writing and rewriting, writing it for individual educators and people who want to kind of assume a leadership role, again, with whoever they're leading, whether it's in a classroom or at a different level, but also having something that could be useful if you wanted to get together with a colleague or 2 or 10 or a bigger a bigger group. So that was fun for me to try to have something that could be of value in that respect. And I feel like, to the best of my ability, I pulled that off. So without further ado, I would love to hear, I want to get de-nervous or unnervous now. What have you read, Jen?
Well, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because the book that I read this week, which is one that just came out, and I've been anxiously awaiting it. It's like sometimes I think we do get, I don't know, I'm going to speak for myself. I am fortunate that sometimes advanced reader copies of books land at my door, but I really don't get that many. And just like everyone else, when I hear about a new book being released, I get excited and I'm waiting, for things to show up. And that was definitely the case for this book, which is about a kid whose name is Portico Reeves, and he suffers from anxiety, and he calls it the frets. And I think what you just described was kind of the frets. And Portico talks about in the very opening pages about how the frets make him feel, about the physical symptoms when his anxiety starts to flare up, what happens in his tummy, what happens to his heart, what happens in his brain, all of those things, and how it really is debilitating for him, the frets are. But as
Jen,
the
can
book,
you spell my ears? I just struggle sometimes. What's the word he calls it? The threats?
the frets, Frets, like fretting.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, okay. And I love that smile that appeared on your face, because doesn't that make a lot of sense? The frets, I love it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So we meet Portico when he is actually the narrator of the book, who is his cat, is describing how Portico and his best friend met on her first day of school, how when he helped her figure out how to get on the bus, but then in the afternoon, he more importantly helps her get off the bus when their apartment building bully sort of comes for them. And when the bully starts to come for I think it's Zola. I'm sorry, I want to make sure I have this. Yes, Zola. When the bully comes for Zola, Portico sort of stands in the way. And the bully, of course, then starts to take out his wrath on Portico, which, of course, initiates the threats. My dog. Y'all, this episode, we have dogs, we have phones going off, we have Steven.
This is like authentic reading and book talking, right? It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in real life with all our friends.
Wow. Okay, so when the bully sort of comes for Portico, the frets start to flare up. And that is actually when Zola helps Portico think about ways to deal with the frets. One way is through what they call pretzel breathing, which is when they fold themselves into a pretzel and begin to focus on their breathing and really do what you and I might call meditating and think about other things other than the thing that's actually bothering them. And it's at that point that they begin to imagine what superhero they might be. Okay. In that imagining, Portico decides, and with Zola's help, that his superhero alter ego would be Stuntboy, because just like with Zola on that day, Portico doesn't want to be the hero out in front. He wants to be the hero doing all the dangerous things to save the real heroes. So he steps between Zola and the bully because he's the stunt boy. He's doing all of the dangerous stunts to protect her so she can go out and do her real superhero business, like teaching people how to pretzel breathe. Does that make sense, right? Well, we think sort of at the beginning of the book that the bully, whose name I want to get right too, I want to say it is, hang on, I'm going to show you one of these drawings here because this is a beautiful, beautiful graphic novel by Jason Reynolds. Here, let me show you the cover. This particular episode, Brad, I feel like I'm all over the place here, but it's by Jason Reynolds. It's called Stuntboy in the Meantime by Jason Reynolds, and it's illustrated by Raúl III, who is one of my absolute favorite authors for young people. And so when they get off the bus, and Brad,
Jen, I'm going to give you a second to think. I want to say thank you because welcome to my world. This is how I live my life. And you are always so poised and it just feels good to see you. Like
really
you're doing great, but you're frazzled, but I'm just like, gosh, it's good to know that my friend is a human being.
I'm having the serious frets right now, and they're all as a result of my dog. Let me just tell you. Anyway, so yes. The bully's name is Hubert Singletary the Worst, and there he is. You see him meeting them on the bus right there, right?
Yes.
We think at the beginning that Hubert is really going to be the foil to Zola and Portico, that he's going to be the one that they are, focus all their time on trying to defeat. But in reality, it turns out that there's another situation really that is going to cause more fretting and more instances in which Portico has to become Stuntboy. And that is the divorce of his parents. His parents are getting separated. And what ends up happening, and I find this to be so clever, is that when they're fighting, like they'll be fighting over a chair. Who's going to take this chair to whose apartment? Who does this chair belong to? When they're fighting and Portico tries to jump in the middle, they will say things to him like, we're just having a conversation, but in the meantime, why don't you go do blah, blah, blah. And Portico starts to define their fights as being in the mean time. It's a time when they're being mean. They are in the meantime. And so as instances of that in the meantime keep increasing and becoming more and more personal, Portico feels like he has to become Stuntboy more and more often to try to save his parents from themselves and kind of from each other. So I love this book, even though I did a dreadful book talk in the beginning, because it really normalizes anxiety. Like for kids who have anxiety, it really talks about it in a way that's transparent, easy for kids to understand, and gives them some real sort of strategies for dealing with it. But also it focuses on this real thing that kids have to face a lot, which is the separation of their parents. As somebody my parents divorced when I was 9. And even though at sort of some level, I think I knew even at that point that was probably the best thing for them, I didn't want them to be in pain. I didn't want them to be separated. I didn't want to have to choose who I would live with, all those things. And so the way that Portico as Stuntboy tries to deal with that, I think a lot of kids will recognize. So my book talk did not do this great book justice, but I really did love it. It's called Stuntboy in the Meantime, and it's by Jason Reynolds, national treasure Jason Reynolds, and Raúl III. And I do think you should read it now.
Jen, so you and I, another thing I don't think we knew we had in common, my parents divorced when I was 9 years old.
How about that?
So yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah.
Similar to books, when we release them into the wild or when they're released into the wild and then it's in readers' minds and hearts to make meaning, you've released your book talk into the world, and I will say from the impact it had on me, like on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm all 10. I want to read that book.
Yeah.
And I'm not always like that, so really, I would say compelling. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And it gave me a real time example to deal with my own frets. I'll be doing some pretzel breathing when this is all over.
Nice. Knowing the pro you are, some people are going to wonder, was the dog staged just so Jen could have that kind of as the anxiety prop? No, I'm just kidding.
Trust me, I'm not. She was not. She is just being her feisty little self. But anyway, well, thank you, Brad, and to our audience for tuning in again this week and enduring this crazy book talk this week. If our 3.5 viewers want to check out our archive of books, which is growing by leaps and bounds every single week, I get excited when I go there and see all the books that we have read and shared over the last few years. Where can they go, Brad?
Yeah, they should go to bit.ly/read_this_now. And you never know, we might start categorizing by episodes that had dogs as co-host guests and those shows that didn't have dogs. You just never know. We might do that.
Yeah, I think if I were doing that, I definitely want to skip the dog ones myself because I've got her. She's down here begging for forgiveness at this very moment. But all right, thanks everyone. Have a great week and happy reading.